Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure being with all of you. And inshallah, today would be the launch of this AMPS, the American Muslim Professional Society Initiative. And this is the first session. Inshallah, we'll have another one, an interactive workshop at 5:30 p.m. So when we do ask ourselves, why do we need like a professional network? Well, let's think about our situation, our state as Muslim Americans in the US for the past 30 plus years. So there is no doubt that we have developed a very strong organizational foundation. There is no doubt that through our masajid, our presence on the ground, through nonprofit organizations, through Muslim schools and so on, we are viewed as a viable, I wouldn't say strong, but viable minority in the US. The question here is, what's next? How can we build on it? And the answer should be clear in the minds of each and every one of us. The answer should be that we are here to make an impact, because we Muslims, we are naturally agents of change. So we need to think about how can we, in a comprehensive way, make an impact at all fronts. An impact on the social front, on the cultural front, obviously on the religious front, an impact in the fabric of this society on the political level and also on the professional level. But if we look at our state as Muslim Americans, when it comes to the professional level, well, we realize that probably we are one of the best minorities in the US when it comes to individual professional talents. There is no doubt. Most of us, we came to this country, especially the immigrants, came through being very skilled, being the cream of the cream when it comes to an angle of professionalism. That's a fact. And the other thing that is so important is that when we look at the generations in the Muslim community right now, the fabric of the Muslim community right now, and especially people who have been in the US for 20 years plus, like myself, like Basil, would be able to relate to this. And like amongst you in the audiences, those who are in the 40s and 50s. The path that we have taken in order for us to find our way in this country is supposedly much harder than the path that our children and the younger generation should take, naturally, right? Each one of us was fighting in an island by himself. At most, you have 2 or 3 people in his domain in this city, right? But look at us right now. We have a much wider, much richer community. We have people who are in their 20s, like Omar, we have people like in their early 30s, people who were born and raised here. And these people, these younger blood of our community, they are trying to find their way. And when it comes to us kind of giving them the direction, the coaching, the mentorship, and so on, that needs to make things for them 10 times easier, not harder. So, but looking at the path that the earlier generation has taken in order for them to find their way on the professional level. And I would like to stop here for a second. Because like here we are not talking about Muslims or non-Muslims. Here we are talking about a playbook on how to actually figure out your way in a professional level. And I would tell you actually 4 rules that I have learned over the years. And for like, as a bit of a background, I'm a technology entrepreneur. Like originally started as a computer scientist. I have a PhD in computer science, and then I was working at Google and Yahoo. Afterwards, I founded my own company. So I've been in the Silicon Valley for the past 15 years. So there are some rules, and you will find my talk a bit techy because like I'm very involved in the tech world. But there are some rules when it comes to developing your career. Think of it as a playbook. The first one, when I entered Google back in 2007, I found on the walls like saying, great people know great people. That's a rule in corporate America, whether we like it or not. So like some would say, good people know good people, or great people know great people. So the fact here that you are the best in whatever doesn't mean that you will earn the opportunity. That like both of them are not equal, right? You can be the best in anything, however, because you don't know people inside, then you are unable to penetrate, right? So because there is a rule in corporate America in general favoring trust over quality that is unknown. Right? So like if I have two candidates and I'm a hiring manager, definitely I will favor a candidate that came to me through a connection. If you are an entrepreneur and you are talking to a VC, a venture capitalist in the Silicon Valley, they wouldn't even talk to you without getting a connection, getting a referral, right? So, and that's applicable if you are searching for a job. That's applicable if you are searching for an intro, like whoever that you want to connect to at the professional level and so on. And this is where the network makes a difference. But that's like the first rule. What is the second rule? The second rule here is A players hire A players and B players hire C players. That's, again, another fact, another rule, whether it's adopted explicitly or implicitly in corporate America, that if you are a hiring manager and you really trust, you are confident about your abilities, you go and hire the best. If you are a weak manager, you go and hire wishy-washy people, right? You go and hire B players, C players. That's why if you yourself, you are a B player, definitely you want people under you that are kind of weaker than you in order for you to feel the strength, right? As a hiring, as a boss, right? That's why you definitely go for hiring C players. So that's the second rule. So the first one was what? Remind me, the first one was? No, like the great people know great people. The second one is A players hire A players, right? The third one, nothing is impossible. You just have to try. Nothing is impossible. You just have to try. And the nice story that I like here is the story of Steve Jobs when he was 12. All of you, you know Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, the founder, the late founder of Apple, billionaire, like one of the people who did shape the industry. Like if you are carrying an i device, iPhone, whatever, right? That's Steve Jobs. In his second term when he was like taking the helm as a CEO of Apple. So Steve Jobs, when he was 12, he wanted to have parts for a device that he wanted to build, right? So what did he do? He's a 12-year-old. He did pick up the phone. By then, like, we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have cell phones. He did pick up the phone, right? So he did pick up the phone and he called the HP co-founder. HP, Hewlett-Packard, he did talk to Bill Hewlett, right? And he asked him, and after 20 minutes, the guy offered to him an internship. Because he saw that he is talking to a wonderful kid. So, had he been a regular kid, he would say, there is no way on earth that I would be making it to HP, let alone talking to the CEO or the co-founder, right? But he didn't fear that try, right? He wanted to give it a shot. That's why nothing is impossible. And if I'm here to count to you the examples that I have seen in my life for people who have done something which is truly formidable, amazing, no one could have thought about, and the path that they have taken, you would just get amazed. Because simply, there is one thing that distinguishes successful people from unsuccessful people, amongst many others, right? That they are not fearing to try. And they are okay to fail and like learn from their failures. So that's why the third rule here is nothing is impossible. You just have to try. The fourth one is you are stronger through your network. And that's actually given. Because based on the people that you know, you can actually open doors and you can actually find yourselves opportunities that there is no way that they could come your way without having connections. And like, listen, we all believe in the risk And everything is a risk from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is provision, everything is written. But here we are talking about how can you be proactive in making a difference in your career, right? So, again, to summarize, there are 4 rules. 4 rules. Great people know great people. A players hire A players. And then what is the 3rd one? Nothing is impossible. And what is the 4th one? You're stronger through your network. So, I'll bet you that each and every one of us who is 40 years plus in this room, who did find themselves a career somehow, whether they had these rules in their heads or whether they learned them over the years, at the end of the day, they did apply them. They did really apply them. So, however, okay, let's look back at our state as Muslims when it comes to connecting at the professional level. Definitely we don't do a good job. And to give you just a quick example in that regard, very, 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 I would say, tangible and real-world example. When you pray in your own masjid, in your own community, whether you are a man or woman, doesn't matter. The person who is right next to you, did you ever think about checking their LinkedIn profile? I'm not saying like, did you check their name? I'm saying like, which like in many cases we are not doing a good job in getting to know each other, except even the name and like he is coming from XYZ. But did you check their LinkedIn profiles? Did you check like how these guys find a living for themselves? And I would like literally tell you a personal example. I mean, when we are like in the Silicon Valley, we have lots of people who are involved in technology. But like when we are in the masjid, all of them are brothers and all of them are sisters. So when you actually dig deeper, and back in 2012 when I was trying to found a company, I was actually fascinated by just taking this simple exercise. The people that I know that pray with me day in, day out, getting to know who they are. And probably after a year or so thinking about a career, like the game changer move in my life was to get like a 50K check from a person whom I know very well, but I didn't know that he is an angel investor, except probably after a couple of years. And when I tried to pitch him about the idea, he was excited, and that made me leave corporate America and jump ship and actually found a company. Okay. So an angel investor is like not a professional institution that is investing, but a regular person that is investing their money in corporate startups or young companies that are emerging, right? So, and they are taking a higher risk in the investment for hoping for a higher return. Another example, again, in my life, I'm talking here very, very personal examples. Immediately after getting married, and like my wife is from my main city of origin, Alexandria, Egypt. I was finishing an internship at Google, and then I was willing to find myself a job at in the US in the Silicon Valley. So through a friend, I came to the Silicon Valley again after having an engagement in Egypt. In 2 weeks, I was doing an interview at Yahoo, and then I got myself a position at Yahoo. Not because I'm good, obviously because of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but because there was a person in that team who knew me and who actually put forward my resume. And there are tons of examples. Like, look, the older ones here in the room, they would just be able to relate to how many times someone from the community is asking them, hey brother, you are working in this company, so can you actually give me a referral? There is this position, there is this post that I'm applying to. Can you actually try to have my resume through the internal system and so on? And that's a reality. And as we said, great people know great people. However, when it comes to the community, the Muslim community, we do this on an individual level, but we don't do it in a structured way. We don't do it in a methodical way. Now, although we don't do it in a methodical way, let's look at what would be the strategic value for our community when it comes to building that stronger body. And there is no doubt, I won't sell you on the strategic value much, because it's so clear, and Brother Basil will talk to us about the affinity groups and like having a penetration in corporate America and so on. But I'll give you another example. I'll give you the example of our Indian brothers, non-Muslims. I'm talking about straight Indians. Do you know how many Indian CEOs of Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies are there now? A lot. I don't want to give you a number, I'll give you names, right? We have Satya Nadella for Microsoft. All of these are Indians, right? We have Sundar Pichai at Google. We have Arvind Krishna at IBM. Albertsons, the supermarket company, we have Vivek Sankaran. For Micron, it's one of the top semiconductors company, you have Sanjay Mehrotra. And finally, Twitter, you have Parag Agrawal. So, and these are just one example. So I'm talking here about IBM, like IBM, Google, Microsoft, Albertsons, Micron, and Twitter. Now, did these CEOs come in a vein or come overnight? No, they didn't. They just like, it happened that over the past 20, 30 years, our Indian fellow citizens, who are now, all of them are Indian Americans, right? But the older generation coming from India, they were able to penetrate corporate America at scale, and obviously they have this leverage of having the scale, right? They have done an amazing job. They did help each other, and they were able to grow to the extent that you have right now two of the three most important technology companies in the world, Microsoft and Google, like Google means alphabet, right? Managed by Indians. And you have IBM, who is historically one of the strongest companies in the technology field, also managed by Indians. And obviously the examples are numerous. But how were they able to get this done? They were able to do it not just because each one of them was good by himself, because they were able to collect themselves. Now, can't we do this as Muslims? Absolutely we can. And assuming that the early immigrants or the like older generation, the like middle-aged generation right now who are in the 40s and 50s, they didn't have the penetration like ability because they were not having the scale. With you guys, with the younger generation, now we should have the scale. Now we should absolutely have the scale. And now the combination of the different generations in our Muslim community, like those in the 20s all the way till those in the 50s and 60s, together they should be able to form stronger bodies in corporate America. That's why we are right now much more positioned to do this networking than 15, 20 years ago. That's why today we are launching this initiative. We are launching the initiative of the American Muslim Professional Society. And the initiative is fueled by MAS, and we have a national team that is managing the initiative, running the initiative. And guess what? Many of them are young professionals. Many of them are younger blood. We have Omar Taha here, we have Ali Taha, we have Abrar Umesh, and so on. Like Basil and myself are just advisors. So we have this team that is going to run the initiative nationally, and the room is open, by the way. If you are interested to join the team, just come and talk to us. We would be able to point you at the team members, and they would be happy to accommodate you in the team. And eventually we are putting together teams at the different localities, different communities. However, what are the potential scope areas? What are the potential examples of functions and activities and projects that this team would be working on? So the mentorship in general, and I'll talk about that in the goals for 2022. The internship and job hunting platform in general. So being able to connect the community members to each other to help in job hunting. Professional matching for different purposes, right? Whether like you are seeking for business opportunities, whether you are seeking for guidance in general, you don't have to be searching for a job. to seek professional matching, professional training. How many of the senior members in our community are really strong in a professional domain? Like you have a surgeon here, you have like a business entrepreneur there, you have a technology entrepreneur, you have like a senior leader in a corporate America company, and so on. How many of those can give some talks like in an intimate setup that they would be able to share their experiences with the younger generation from our Muslim community? And the good news here is the post-pandemic world, everything is done online. P100, our own success story in MAS, everything like was done remotely. That's why having like the barriers of the geography is not applicable anymore. So we can do all of these functions remotely. What are the other examples? You have the Muslim body at work, or in other words, the affinity groups. And Brother Basil will cover this in a minute, right? What do we mean by affinity group, and why it's so important for us to develop affinity groups at XYZ Corporation, where XYZ is any company. Affinity group at Microsoft, affinity group at Accenture, affinity group at Google, and so on. Muslim affinity group. The other thing is B2B opportunity matching. Think about the professional matching of businesses within our community. They always say that in some other communities, the dollar would circulate within the community for X number of hops before going outside the community, without naming which community we are talking about. Maybe you can guess. You can take a wild guess. So the idea here is, for the Muslim businesses, how many hops, like to elaborate, I have $1 in my pocket right now. How many Muslim hands this dollar will have to circulate through to reach a non-Muslim hand? And here I'm not trying to be kind of pro-Muslim only or so. I'm just like trying to benefit my brothers and sisters in the Muslim community. That's all, right? So when you go and buy a halal food, you are benefiting your brother in the Muslim community, right? When you are buying a device that has been developed by a Muslim company, you are benefiting your like a fellow Muslim company, and so on, right? But we need to be thinking about it in this mindset, right? So B2B professional matching, an entrepreneurial network, just like putting together an entrepreneurial network that is fostering entrepreneurship within our community. And finally, the regional summits and professional gatherings where people just mingle together and network, as the one that we will have at 5:30 p.m. So lots of potential examples of projects that would be in the scope of this initiative. However, we are so keen on aiming high because the potential is high, but starting, I wouldn't say starting small, but starting tangible. That's why for 2022, we are pledging and we are taking on just 2 initiatives that are of immediate value and having a potential for a very, very tangible short-term impact in this year, in the upcoming year, 2022, inshallah. The first one is the mentorship network, where we are going to put together the foundation for a mentorship network. And how would that work? Think of batches, cohorts of mentorship. Batches, each one of them will be 3 or 4 months. Like the first batch will be starting, hopefully, inshallah, in February 2022. A batch, let's say, the batch will focus on 1 or 2 or 3 domains, professional domains. So let's take an example, a batch for medical fields. So that would be a batch starting, let's say, in February 2022, ending in June 2022. That batch will have 10 natural, like it's one batch nationally. So no physical barriers, no geography barriers. One batch will have at least 10 coaches from that field. So 10 coaches from the medical field. These coaches will be willing to give or put around an hour every other week for one-to-one coaching with a mentee. Just one mentee. I'm talking to you about the bare minimum. More is better, but this is the bare minimum. And then we will open this batch for applicants for the purpose of getting at least, or like, depending on the availability of the coaches, let's say for this example, 10 mentees. So the goal of the team would be to open the application to actually do this matching. So the application will be open for like our younger generation from US Muslims all over the country. Will be open for some time. Each one of them each applicant will share why they are seeking this type of mentorship opportunity, and then the batch will continue for 3-4 months. Obviously, after the batch, if the mentor is willing, they can put on their own some time with the mentee. But what we are shooting for here is a very structured and under the radar commitment also from the mentor, because these mentors, we are trying to get the best of the best. And hopefully, we are like our goal for 2022, inshallah, is 3 cohorts with at least 3 professional domains. Some of the shortlisted professional domains are medical fields, technology entrepreneurship, traditional business. And like we are like elected officials, for example, we are thinking about having something specific for them, and like hopefully Sister Abrar Amesh will be talking about this in the second session, and few other elected officials. But the idea here is we try to rally everyone around this mentorship. The second one, which is second project that we are taking on in 2022, inshallah, is what Brother Basil will be talking about, which is the affinity groups, the Muslim affinity groups at work. And we are trying to establish, so let's say Muslims at Microsoft. Our goal here, and I would leave Basil to cover the details, our goal is to initiate 10 new affinity groups in 2022, and then build an alliance composed of at least 20 affinity groups, whether established or new, in 2022, inshallah. So 2 goals, 3 cohorts of mentorship, and then for the affinity groups, 10 new affinity groups, 20, an alliance of 20 existing affinity groups. And inshallah, if Allah grants us life, we would be meeting here again at a much wider gathering, inshallah, for the convention in 2022, with the goal here that hopefully, inshallah, over the upcoming 2-3 years, this initiative will be strong enough, and maybe like it will have a separate organization, an organization under MAS. But so far, it's a MAS initiative. It's a like national initiative that is led by MAS across the different communities in the US, inshallah. So with that, I hope that I did excite you enough about the initiative. I hope that I have given you a bit of an overview on the strategic value of the initiative. And now I would leave the floor to my brother Basil Abu Shaban to actually dig deeper into the concept of affinity groups and discuss why they are important. Jazakumullah khair.